Carlos and I read the first chapter of Harry Potter. Well, chapter 1, The Boy Who Lived. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley, of number 4 of Private Drive, were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. That were the last people you expect to involve in anything strange or mysterious, because they just didn't hold with such nonsense. Mr. Dursley was the director of a firm called Grunnings, which made drills. He was a big, beefy man with hardly any neck, although he did have a very large moustache. Mr. Dursley was thin and blondy, and had nearly twice the usual amount of neck, which came in very useful as she spent so much of her time craning over garden fences, spying on the neighbors. The Dursleys had a small son called Dudley, and in their opinion there was no finer boy anywhere. The Dursleys had everything very wanted, but they also had a secret, and their greatest fear was that somebody would discover it. They didn't think they could bear it if anyone found out about the Potters. Mr. Potter and Mr. Dursley sisters was Mr. Dursley's sister, sorry, but they hadn't met for several years. In fact, Mr. Dursley pretended she didn't have a sister because her sister and her good-for-nothing husband were as undursley as it was possible to be. The Dursleys shuddered to think that their neighbors would say if the Potter arrived in the street. The Dursleys knew that the Potters had a small son too, but they had never even seen him. This boy was another good reason for keeping the Potters away. They didn't want Dudley mixing with a child like that. When Mr. and Mrs. Dursley woke up on the dull, gray Tuesday, our story starts. There was nothing about the cloudy sky outside to suggest that strange and mysterious things would soon be happening all over the country. Mr. Dursley hummed as he picked out most boring tie for work, and Mr. Dursley gossiped away happily as she wrestled a screaming Dudley into his high chair. None of them noticed a large, tawny owl fluttered past the window. At 8:30, Mr. Dursley picked up his briefcase, picked Mr. Dursley on the cheek, and tried to kiss Dudley goodbye but missed, because Dudley was now having a tantrum and throwing his cereal at the wall. "Little tyke," shouted Mr. Dursley as he left the house. He got into his car and backed out of number 4's drive. It was on the corner of the street that he noticed his first sign of something peculiar: a cat reading a map. For a second Mr. Dursley didn't realize what he had seen. Then he jerked his head around to look again. There was a tabby cat standing on the corner of the private drive, but there wasn't a map in sight. What could he have been thinking of? It must have been a tricking of the light. Mr. Dursley blinked and stared at the cat. It started back as Mrs. Dursley drove around the corner and up the road. He watched the cat in his mirror and was now reading the sign that said Private Drive. No, looking at the sign, cats couldn't read maps or things. Mr. Dursley gave himself a little shake and put the cat out of his mind. As he drove toward town, he thought of nothing except a large order of thrills he was hoping to get that day. Uy, ya me pasé.
Hi, I will read chapter 2 of the book Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Well, chapter 2 The Vanishing Glass. Nearly, nearly 10 years had passed since the Dursley had woken up to find their nephew on the front step, but Privet Drive had hardly changed at all. The sun rose on the same tidy front gardens and lit up the brass number 4 on the Dursley front door. It crept into their living room, which was almost exactly the same as it had been on the night when Mr. Dursley had seen that fateful news report about the owls. Only the photographs on the mantelpiece really showed how much time had passed. 10 years ago, there had been lots of pictures of what looked like a large pink beach but wearing different colored bonnet. But Dursley wasn't longer a baby. And now the photograph shows a large blond boy riding his first bicycle on a carousel at the fair, playing a computer game with his father, being hugged and kissed by his mother. The room held nothing at all that another boy lived in the house, too. Yet Harry Potter was still there, asleep at the moment, but not for long. His Aunt Petunia was awake, and it was her sturdy voice that made the first noise of the day. Up! Get up! Now! Harry woke with a start. His aunt rapped on the door again. Up! They screamed. Harry heard her walking toward the kitchen and then the sound of the frying pan being put on the stove. He rolled onto his back and tried to remember the dream he had been having. Sorry. It had been a good one. There had been a flying motorcycle in it. He had a funny feeling he had had the same dream before. His aunt was back outside the door. Are you up yet? She demanded. Nearly, said Harry. Well, get a move on. I want you to look after the bacon and don't you dare let it burn. I want everything perfect on Dolly's birthday. Harry grunted. What did you say? His Aunt Petunia snapped through the door. Nothing. Dudley's birthday, could he have forgotten? Harry got slowly out of bed and started looking for socks. He found a pair under his bed and, after pulling a spider off one of them, put them on. Harry was used to spiders, because the cupboard under the stairs was full of them and that was where he slept. When he was dressed, he went down the hall into the kitchen. The table was almost hidden beneath a Dudley birthday present. It looked as though Dudley had forgotten the new computer he wanted, not to mention the second television and the racing bike. Exactly why Dudley wants a racing bike was a mystery to Harry, as Dudley was very fat and had to exercise. Unless, of course, it involved pushing somebody. Dudley's favorite punching bag was Harry, but he couldn't often catch him. Harry didn't look it, but he was very fast. Perhaps it had something to do with living in a dark cupboard, but Harry had always been small and skinny for his age. He looked even smaller and skinnier than he really was because all he had to wear were old clothes of Dudley's. and Dudley was about 4 times bigger than he was. Harry had a thin face, knobbly knees, black hair, and bright green eyes. He wore round glasses hit together with a lot of scotch tape because of all the times Dudley had punched him on the nose. The only thing Harry liked about his sound appearance was a very thin scar on his forehead that was shaped like a bolt of lightning. He had had it as long as he could remember, and the first question he could ever remember asking his aunt, Petunia, was who he had forgotten. In the car crash when your parents died, she had said, and don't ask questions. Don't ask questions. That was the first rule for a quiet life with the Dursley. Uncle Vernon entered the kitchen as Harry was turning over the bacon. Comb your hair, he barked, by way of a morning greeting. About once a week, Uncle Vernon looked over the top of his new newspaper and ensured that Harry needed a haircut. Harry must have had more haircuts than the rest of the boys in his class together, but it made no difference. His hair simply grew that away, all over the place. Harry was frightened by the time Dudley arrived in the kitchen with his mother. Dudley looked a lot like Uncle Vernon. He had a large pink face, not much neck, small, watery blue eyes, and thick long hair that lay smoothly on his thick forehead. Aunt Petunia often said that Dudley looked like a baby angel. Harry often said that Dudley looked like a pig in a wig. Harry put the plates of egg and bacon on the table, which was different as there wasn't much room. Dudley, meanwhile, was cutting his presents, his face full. 36, he said, looking up at his mother and father, that's two less than last year. Darling, you haven't counted Auntie Marsh's present. See, it's here under this big one from Mommy and Daddy. All right, 37 then, said Dudley, going red in the face, Harry, who could see a hook Dudley tantrums coming on, began wolfing down his bacon as fast as possible in case Dudley turned the table over. Aunt Petunia obviously sensed danger, too, because she said quickly, and we will buy you another 2 presents while we were out to today. Who's that, Pumpkin? 2 more presents, is that all right? Dudley thought for a moment. It looked like hard work. Finally, he said slowly, so I will have 39 twentimes, said Aunt Petunia. Oh, Dudley sat down heavily and grabbed the nearest person. All right, then. Uncle Vernon choked like Tyke wasn't once his morning worth, just like his father. Attaboy, Dudley. He referred Dudley hard. At that moment the telephone rang, and Aunt Petunia went to answer it while Harry and Uncle Vernon watched Dudley unwrap the racing bike. A video camera, a remote control airplane, 16 new computer games, and VCR. He was ripping the paper off a gold wristwatch when Aunt Petunia came back from the telephone, looking both angry and worried. Bad news, Vernon, she said. Mr. Fig's broken his leg. She can take him. She jerked his head in Harry's direction. Dudley's mouth fell open in horror, but Harry's heart gave a leap, Every year on the birthday, his parents took him and friend out for the day to adventure parks, hamburgers restaurants, or the movies. Every year, Harry was left behind with Mr. Fig, a mad old lady who lived 2 streets away. Harry headed there. The whole house smelled of cabbage, and Mr. Fig made him look at the photographs of all the cats she had ever owned. Hi Carlos, what do you think that about the reading?
Well, I think Mr. Dudley was nervous because the facts in the morning, like the cat and the owls in his neighborhood.
Yes.
Well, uh, after that, he had a normal morning. Uh, his office is on the ninth floor, and he always sit back at the window, so he couldn't see the owls flying in the sky. The people out there uh, did uh, they see the owls at morning and was very surprised because someone's never seen the owls at day.
Yes, it was a strange animal, strange animal in this place, no? Is
Yes,
no.
and they only get out at night, but they have a lot of owls at daylight. Yes, so it's very strange.
Yes. Well, after I remember that um, the the Mr. Dursley,
Mr. Dudley.
Dursley, he he went out to buy a big donut, in on the street. He found a lot of people that he was using a strange uh,
Clothes.
clothes. Yes, he was very confused because no, he don't know, he don't know este, what was happened, and
Yes.
suddenly he found or he saw a strange person that an old man,
Yes.
that this man hugged to Mr. Dudley, and Mr. Dudley was very confused.
Yes. Well, when he get out to the bakery, he could saw a group of people with strange clothes. And when he get out of the bakery, he heard talk someone that people, and he heard that um, he referred to the porters, and his son called it Harry, and
Yes.
he worried up because he relation that the words they say with his relatives, the sister of his wife, and
Mr. Spetunia.
Mr. Dudley. Uh, he think he referred to the porters, and he 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 was worried about that.
he arrived to his office and want to call his wife to say it what he heard, but he thinks the information and decide not to call to his wife because he hurry about that and he just decide not to do. Yes. Well, it, we, well, when I like this reading is was very interesting.
Yes, me too.
Um, well, that's all.
That's all. Bye.